opportunity to introduce our guest speaker tonight, Father John Parr. Father John is a diocesan priest who has taught at Regis High School in Eau Claire. He was the director of vocations for the diocese, taught in the late formation program where many of us who have experienced him in this room have connected with his life. He was the pastor at the Newman Center in Stevens Point. He was at Holy Name in Wausau, Hudson, Arcadia. He was also very active in the tent program, the Teen Encounter Christ, that we once had in our diocese. He presently has a new assignment as of about a month ago at St. Elizabeth's in Holman. Father John loves Diet Pepsi, coffee, and he enjoys Italian food. He's an avid baseball fan and has been to almost all the major league fields. Have you made all of them? Not yet, okay. He's the oldest of 5 brothers. He grew up in Morocco and his mother is still living. Father John is very, very supportive of Faith Through Nation and very dedicated to the forming of us as laity. As you listen to Father John, you may consider the questions on the back of your prayer aid and your pencils at the end of the pews. We'll use some of your wisdom and your thoughts on his talk as we break into our session. So let us welcome Father John Parr to St. Louis.
Thank you very, very much. I am very honored, really, to be invited to be with you tonight. I am grateful to Barb, Steve, to the whole committee that has worked so diligently to plan and to prepare for this gathering tonight. Thank you to all the committee who have service ministers, to the ministers. Thank you, and I'm grateful especially too for see so many familiar faces, people from X number of years ago, Holy Name and St. Matthew, that the Lord used really to inspire me and to humble me by their faith and to show me the love of Christ. The Lord has touched me through so many of you here in this room, so it's a grace and it's a blessing for me to be able to be with you tonight. Thank you. About half a dozen years ago, time goes so fast, maybe a little bit more, a priest by the name of Father Godfrey died. Some of you may have heard his name. Father Godfrey was for more than 70 years a Benedictine monk at St. John's Abbey in Collegeville, Minnesota, where he also, for a good many years, taught theology to graduate students and undergraduate students. Just an incredible man. He was renowned for his, he was not renowned as a patristic scholar in particular, I guess. Patristics is the study of church fathers, Jerome, St. Augustine, St. Athanasius. A scholar and a fabulous charism gift for being able to convey what he has learned. He also was renowned for his studies in liturgy. And when he died, Father Godfrey actually made the front page of St. Paul Pioneer Press. I was at Hudson at the time, at St. Paul Pioneer Press, and there, above the fold, this Benedictine monk from St. John's, his obituary on the front page, as it was also in various Catholic periodicals, of course. Father Godfrey was just an amazing man. Anybody who came into his orbit knew that here was somebody who wasn't just alive, but who felt alive, who was intensely alive. One of my regrets having studied at St. John's, in fact, I used to sing era. One of my big regrets is that I didn't take any courses that Father Godfrey was offering in those days. To be frank, theology wasn't on my top 10 list in those days. But I regret it now, looking back, and I really missed an opportunity. But I did happen to catch a lecture that Father Godfrey gave probably just 2 or 3 years before his death. And in that lecture, he asked a question of those gathered that has stayed with me and, in a manner of speaking, has actually haunted me in years since. In his lecture, Father Godfrey asked, what difference does it make if the bread and wine become the body and blood of Christ, and we don't? What difference does it make if the bread and wine become the body and blood of Christ, and we don't? That question, I think, when asked, to some people's ears would automatically make them question the questioner, make them suspicious of the questioner. But that question, I want to suggest to you, is at the heart of our Catholic faith. And that's the question that each of us is being asked, and it's the question each of us in our own fashion is going to have to answer. What difference does it make, really, if the bread and wine are transformed and our hearts are not? You're familiar, I know, with one of the premier Eucharistic stories, two disciples on the road to Emmaus that Easter day. Interesting to read scripture scholars about these two people on the road. Some are suggesting today it's a husband and wife, actually. Two women, perhaps, two men, man and woman. Two people making their way to Emmaus. And Luke goes out of his way to tell us that as Jesus walks with them, their hearts are burning within them. I have a friend who says that oftentimes at Mass, the only things that are burning are the altar candles. Our hearts are to be burning within us. We are to become what we receive. We are to be consumed by our consumption. What difference does it make, really, if we eat and drink at this table Sunday after Sunday after Sunday and end up living with the same values as those people who never eat and drink here? St. John Parr once said that the altar of stone is made holy because it receives the body and blood of Christ. But the altar of the poor is holy because it is the body and blood of Christ. What difference does it make if we devoutly eat and drink at the Lord's table and do that with great faith, with great regularity, and fail to recognize that the Lord who is making me his tabernacle, choosing out of all places to dwell in me, is choosing also to dwell in the person next to me. The Lord who chooses to dwell in me and loves me with all his heart, loves the motherless hour making her way through the wilds of Somalia with her infant in her arms, loves her just as much. What difference does it make if we receive the body and blood of Christ and we refuse to recognize that it's the same Lord who chooses to dwell in every other interface and heart? What difference does it make? What difference does it make if we bow low before the Lord in Eucharist and yet allow our ears to become dumb and our hearts numb to the cries of the accused, the misused, and the abused? St. Benedictine monks and St. John, some of you who have been there, you know, this is always a striking thing, a poignant moment for me. They process in for daily Mass, or Sunday Mass, the monks. And they come up to the altar, and of course they bow to the altar, and then they step aside and bow to one another. That's caption is it? Something of what Father Godfrey, I think, is asking about in his question. So tonight, if I could, let me begin by sharing with you 3 seemingly random happenings, occurrences. Kind of send them up like fireworks if I can. And I hope that in some rambling fashion I'll be able to make sense of them and maybe pull them together by the time our evening ends. The first scenario, if you will. I had the good fortune to, before I moved to Holman, as Barb said, the 1st of July, to spend less than 2 years at Sacred Heart Parish in Passion. And I grew up in a small town, but I've never been involved in ministry, rural ministry. I have a whole new appreciation for what the demands of rural ministry was like. But during the course of, as I arrived at the parish, I discovered, much to my dismay, I have to admit, I wasn't aware of going in. They told me that they had, for 15 years, been planning to build a gathering space. They had the money, but it just, for whatever reason, just didn't get off the ground. And so, by God's grace and the commitment of these people, they put together and built a gathering space that I'm very proud of. I hope that they are too. If you're ever in Passion, I encourage you to stop by and to visit. It really is handsomely done, I have to say. I make mention of that because 33 years, I've been a priest. For 33 years, I have stood at the altar and tried as best I can to avoid saying Mass. Trying as hard as I can to avoid reading Mass. I've tried as best I can for 33 years to pray Mass, to pray the Eucharist. With greater or lesser success, I have to admit, but that's been my hope and my desire. And it's hard work, I have to admit, especially when there are 2 or 3 or 4 Masses at a time. Steve, close your ears now if you want to hear this, but don't want to hear this. But I admire Father Bryce for a lot of things. But one is just his ability to celebrate Mass, and lots of Masses. I have no idea how many he can celebrate daily. But to be able to do that prayerfully, that's a challenge, it's a task. My point being that one Sunday, beautiful summer day like this, I was standing at the altar at Sacred Heart. Now, this gathering area, they had chosen, with great wisdom, to just put in clear windows, not stained glass. And the priest who's standing at the altar has the premier view. You're standing at the altar, and you can just look out those windows at the entrance to the church, and I'm not exaggerating, you can look for miles across this green, fertile field. And this particular day, the sun was shining. It was a spectacular day. And so my mind began to wander, and that's always the risk, isn't it? Because once it starts to wander, you never know where it's going to end up, and it ended up in a strange place. So I was praying the Eucharistic prayer,